Good afternoon, everyone. I am back for the final instalment of the alt watch list Ys and Zs, and that I can finally actually do some real work. And obviously everything keeps changing while I'm doing it. It's taken me about 3 months to get to the end of the alphabet with 700 alts, and yeah, there's so much that goes on in between and so much to chart that I'm well behind as usual, and now we're getting the 3-month quarterly closes today as well, so there's going to be some interesting stuff going on. Again, I'll just do a quick update of Bitcoin, etc., same as I've done in the last couple of streams, which ends up being not so quick, but mainly because I want to wait for the 3-month close, and also wait for sort of Monday fuckery to be out of the way. Yeah, I've had loads of alerts go over the last, well, since before the weekend, I guess, because the stock market dumping took Bitcoin down with it, and also most of the alts. Most of my aggressive longs got murdered. Some are holding if they were large zones, but I think all the majors pretty much got murdered, except for the really conservative ones. Yeah, so let's get started. So the dollar, I've been watching here for a while for a bounce off this, annual demand zone. I will do an update of all, for anybody who follows FX, I will do an update of the 3-month FX alerts this week sometime, because I need to clear them off my charts. It's been a pretty good month actually, good quarter. Some things, when things go crazy, yeah, then no, but for the most part, a lot of things have been ranging, so it's been quite nice just trading up and down, up and down. I think, yeah, this period, what's that, the first last week of February, first week of March, a few things blasted through some zones, but for the most part, it's actually been a pretty good quarter. So yeah, dollar, I was hoping for a bounce here on the yearly zone. It took its sweet time. It has moved up. I'm still not 100% confident, I guess. It had a 2-day demand here, and it's just the wick has just gone slightly above that level, and it's made a daily supply. So I kind of still need to sit a bit more, and also because so when you compare the other, like the majors, which obviously make up the dollar, euro does look like it's breaking down, but doesn't have really clean supply, so I haven't had any supply alerts in. Well, it's on 3-month supply, and I think the normal, this is the futures chart, I think the normal chart's on the yearly, in a yearly supply. I think the lower time frames haven't been that pretty. Aussie dollar's dumping a lot today, but also might create a monthly demand, so that makes that interesting. And then the pound, while again lower time frame looks a bit ropey, did also make a weekly demand, which is going inside now. It's a weekly demand, but still, again, I don't necessarily want to trade against that, so I'm not sure if we're going to go rejection now on the dollar, and a move back down to that 2-day before, and then we've got NFP later this week, so there's going to be some fuckery anyway. Gold is obviously still going to the moon. Doesn't come back for any of my re-entries now, but obviously because I'm just mostly doing higher time frame. Silver's been a bit nicer to trade. I had an alert for one of there were 2024 highs, a lower one, and then the all-time high for 2024. So I had an alert go for that, so that gave a nice short if you took the swing failure there. Then I had a retest entry on 8-hour supply today, and then it dropped back down into weekly and daily demand here, and now we're getting another bounce. So I'm not sure here, like maybe this is still going to move up to the take out the all-time high and or go higher, but we'll see. But that's been pretty nice. And yeah, gold, I'm just like, I've got a long entry in locally, but you know, it's very high to long now, so it's up to you if you want to still be looking for longs on that. More importantly for crypto, we had a huge drop on Friday for the indices. They all, in fact, well, not all, I know S&P and NASDAQ had 3-day demands, and they got tiny bounces off those, but only went as far as, I think, either swing failing 8-hour supply or up into 8-hour supply before dropping down. And then today we've also had a gap down this morning, or we opened with a small gap. We've had NASDAQ, S&P and Russell all dropped into my next long area of interest, so that's kind of interesting. But where we are now, I still need to run through them properly, but I'm pretty sure, I mean, we've certainly got weekly supplies above now, but we might end up with monthly supplies. So I need to kind of check. I think on, yeah, S&P is going to have a monthly supply up at 5,900. Already got weekly, and it's got local weekly as well. So I have put, again, more aggressive short entries on the local weeklies. While Bitcoin didn't make a weekly or a 3-day, this in case of S&P, we're saying here we've got a weekly and we've got a 3-day inside it, and I've alerted the 3-day. And they may fail because we've got this swing fail of the low. They never got to where I really wanted them to get to at the high, so it is possible this just runs through. Excuse me. But this and NASDAQ, I've put more aggressive short alerts on those weekly supplies just to see what reaction we get. Cross for NASDAQ's a bit far over. So yeah, I guess we'll see. I mean, these were kind of interim long entries. They weren't really long entries I wanted. I kind of put them in just thinking we might get a bounce at the start of the week, so I put them in only earlier today. But yeah, they've had a decent reaction so far, but we've still got 4 hours supply immediately above, and then this gap. So we've got DJI now filling the gap, and NASDAQ and everything else has a bit further to go anyway. I think all of them have some sort of a gap above. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But I mean, at the moment, while we probably expect some sort of up move because we had such a big drop on Friday, and certainly if this ends up as a swing failure of the lows, that could be more promising for Bitcoin. But then I don't like the fact that we've got these weekly supplies above. So be a bit careful on Bitcoin for that reason. Excuse me. I thought my cough is actually a lot better, but with talking, it's probably not going to help. So Bitcoin, we did have a CME gap left above, which is just about closed now, so I can kind of delete that. I was looking for us to come down and fill this lower CME gap you can see here from last week, or no, a couple of weeks ago now, 83.80, and there were a whole bunch of walls at 80k. So I was hoping we'd come a bit lower than this. So I haven't, and as I've said before, I haven't been like really focusing on Bitcoin and Ether lately, other than the high time frames, and in fact my low time frame stuff. So the high time frame is still working out quite well, but the low time frame not so much. I'll show you that in a minute. So I had, from a high time frame perspective, which I've shared in here, this entry here that I had for a while. I was hoping Tuesday would come up and take out that Monday high, but it didn't. So again, I didn't try and add any extra alerts or entries in there. It was awkward because so it created a 3-day demand, and it was only by a small amount, so it wasn't a good one. But it created a 3-day demand, and then I could see a lot of people were trying to long on this on the CME gap fill level, and that was my error. Unfortunately, I joined them, and I'll show you, like I say. So we've got nice entry there. On the lower time frame, I was hoping for an entry on this CME close down here or somewhere in that vicinity, which we haven't yet got. And like I say, I'm not going to add anything on that yet. Obviously, we're getting a decent bounce today in line with what indices are doing, and to fill the gap. On US dollar dominance, my other concern from a high time frame perspective on Bitcoin is this only very, very slightly, but it did close above, creating a weekly demand by a hair. And it also very clearly created a 3-day demand below. So again, while these are weak demands, because they haven't broken the high as yet, I was kind of looking back at some of the price action over here, and particularly I think this one, although this did actually go lower and take out some stops. So this that has bounced in 5-day demand. It's where we were looking. It went a bit deeper inside it. I was hoping for, and I think that was my other thing with looking for the Bitcoin to take out the high. I was hoping this would go slightly lower and get to the 8-hour demand here. And then at the same time hoping Bitcoin would take out the high from Monday, but we didn't get that, and we just got a move straight up from there. So yeah, I can't say I'm still anything other than bearish on Bitcoin. If I see supply break, then I can reconsider. From the high time frame perspective, part of the reason for that short there was we had this 5-day supply. It was a weak 5-day supply because it only swing failed the low. So we can still see what price action we get through here and if we're going to get more consolidation. But the rejection of the 5-day supply here and means for me that we should take out the low here at this question mark level. And then anything before that is just are just interim levels that we look to trade. Do I want to short for a lower high here? I'm unsure at the moment, to be honest. I wanted, like I say, to wait for Monday to play out and just see what happens. Let me just check my stream is okay. Seems okay. From a lower time frame perspective, and I can show you my error now, that I wanted, that I threw in an alert here, and I'll show you what I said on Telegram actually. So I said I put 2 more aggressive long arrows in. Every fiber of my being is telling me to delete them from a high time frame perspective, but I'll leave them and you can use your judgment. And then when they eventually both, I think that was both Ether and Bitcoin, then when they failed, I think I just should have listened to the fibers of my being. And I can delete that. So that's the CME gap close we've got there. So yeah, I just want to see a bit more price action develop through here now. I've still got the possible entry down here if we do run a bit lower. And you know, all the levels I've talked about previously, where really my preference is, let's go back to the higher time frame, my preference is for longs down below 72k, if not significantly lower than that. One thing I did observe earlier actually, and just to be conscious of this, so if we do go down, so that the 4-day demand there was the more aggressive long entry and just a bit higher than the 3-month, and we've got the 3-month an all-time high and weekly inside and various other things. Obviously the 3-month zone is a big zone, so it can drop deeper inside if it wants. The other thing I observed was this. I was looking at the Forex chart, Forex.com chart. So just be aware that on this, the 3-month level comes in a bit lower at 69,650. So, and I haven't used this really for confluence previously, so I don't know if it's decent or not, but just be aware that if this does have the confluence and if this does play out, if the Forex or the Tradfi markets along with CME want to take this a bit lower, they could. So yeah, we won't necessarily get the bounce off the top of that 3-month zone on the normal exchanges. Get back to my normal chart. What else? I don't think there's much else to say on Bitcoin. Like I say, I'll get back to this. The point of this stream is more to do the Ys and Zs. So I'll get back to this and see. But yeah, the levels of interest remain the same as previously, up here at the 61 fib above 95k. If we get a push higher, we do already have the monthly supply up there. It's not going to create anything new from a monthly or 3-monthly perspective, and then below, dropping down into these 3-month, etc. levels below, or the 3-month zone, and then various zones inside it if we drop lower. The other issue I should mention from an alts perspective is looking at all the totals. So total, and this is going to be much more of an issue for alts, but so total itself didn't create a weekly supply here, and isn't, I think, has already got a monthly supply above. What we do have on total too is a weekly supply, which is the same as what Ether has. So I'm potentially more bearish on this because of that weekly supply. It is possible we run through it. So, I mean, these are weekly supplies that we've made this week. And I was looking back at some of the price action. I'll show it on some of the alts again a bit later, but I was looking back at some of the price action at these lows and at previous lows, and obviously at some point supply has to break. So there are other instances where so here, for example, we've created a weekly supply. We closed below these 2 green candles, but then obviously the next week we just came straight back up through it. And given we are quarter end or quarter beginning, then this, you know, might be a chance for it to start moving up. We've got Trump, the tariff stuff is coming up on the 2nd, and then NFP this week. So, you know, maybe that's going to give this impetus to actually break the down structure. So that, like, while we've still got a down structure and we've still got new supply, it's weak supply. So there is a possibility that it runs through it, and that's then again makes me reticent about giving short entries, because even, you know, if we look at previous price action, quite often what you see is that it comes down, and even if it doesn't make a lower low, but it will still give a scalp off that level. So that's something to watch out for, but just be careful on some of the alts if you're longing into what's a new weekly supply. Total 3 doesn't have it, but does have 3. So whether, even if they don't have the weekly supply, quite a lot of them have the 3 and 5 day above as well. So also a concern. So this others did create a weekly, but only beaten by a very, very small margin, and it's got a 3 day up higher inside it. So again, I just need to see a little bit more on these, and if they flip back through, then great, then we can look for longs again. And Total DeFi didn't quite create the weekly in there actually, so I need to delete that. So yeah, we're still holding the up structures on these, just barely. Yeah, but the supply is still there, it's still in place, so yeah, it's still very possible we get bigger drops on these. BTC dominance is still strong. This, I think, didn't create a weekly demand, or already had one, but created 5 and 4 day demands, so it's still pushing there. Ether dominance still looks very ugly, but has hit a 2-month level. So, but again, the Ether BTC pair is a bit higher than this structurally, but has hit an old 3-month level. So I don't know if, you know, it is worth, obviously it's continually worth watching Ether, but Ether for now, I mean, we are coming off a lower high, so that structurally we can very easily break this low, but we keep hoping for a bounce on Ether and keep not getting given it. So now's yet another time that you can look for a bounce that may or may not happen. And then others and Total DeFi aren't great either. They also created the weekly supply. So again, like, you know, is that money flow into Bitcoin, or is it into the US dollar dominance? And at the moment, this is looking like this is obviously still, again, structurally in a downtrend, still consolidation. It could still drop lower from here, so I guess we just need to see. But obviously those weekly supplies aren't strong, so anyway, that's that. Not much else I want to report on that. I just want to see a little bit more play out, because there's nothing really clean on any of these that I want to trade right now in the current range. God, my charts look so messy. Ether. So Ether again, like I wanted, there was a CME gap. So the equivalent CME gap that Bitcoin has here. So I've just left it in so you could see it. So I wanted to close that gap, which it has, but obviously it's also gone significantly lower. So Ether didn't bounce where I wanted it to bounce on that. I think we got a small bounce, but then it came back through the zone, and has obviously also now left a gap above, along with a weekly supply. In addition, Ether is going to create, so this is the CME chart, but we are going to create a 3-month supply, barring any crazy price action in the next 8 hours or so. This will create a 3-month supply up here. It's already got the 2-month below. It's in 3-month demand, so again, it's just that indecisive 3-month demand, 3-month supply, trading between the two. So again, like, Ether's a challenge, because I don't want to short here on weekly supply when we're in a 3-month demand. But then I also don't want a long. So let me go back to the normal chart. So it's, yeah, similar here. So we're going to create the 3-month supply up here. We've already got the 2-month that we rejected off, and it's made a new weekly supply. I didn't comment actually that these trend lines were what I was expecting to get taken out. And I said we're quite bearish, and it's difficult because Bitcoin can do, crypto can do these sort of rising consolidations and then pump up as well. But in this case, it did come down and take out all the stops. So yeah, I can remove my trend lines now. yeah, so we'll just see. So this is just about managed a higher low here. So again, weekly supply, but still weekly supply, and then 3-day inside it. And again, I think I was looking back at previous price action just to see, similar, for example, here when we got the original bounce and then it came up for a higher, we just made a higher low here, and it would have looked very ugly still at that point. It's not dissimilar to how we are now. And I think it also created a weekly supply there. Let me check. Yeah, so also created a weekly supply here, but did reject off it. I'm not sure if that was before the low or after. Yeah, so it rejected off it and then made the new low. So this is kind of already made the higher low. So this has already made a higher low. So we just need to see the reaction here on the weekly. But again, even if we get a rejection like that, similar to previously, again, we could end up with another higher low, even with the rejection of the weekly. So if you want to short there, that's up to you. For me, it's a little bit too aggressive. And again, I'd rather stick to trading alts, I think. But just be very careful of that if you're looking at long entries. From the high time frame perspective, I haven't changed anything. I still have too many levels of interest above, but nothing new compared to what you've seen previously. And then the same, like I would have liked a little bit of a dip deeper into this 3-week demand. And remember, my preference to the long side was 1600, this daily demand at the base of the weekly and this 3-month zone, because it is also confluent with the 61 fib. So we'd still kind of like to see a bit lower on that. Whether or not I get it is another matter. Then on the low time frame, so similar issue here to Bitcoin in that so we had the nice short entry up here that I didn't reset the alert, but it did reject in the same area that I wanted. That was the more aggressive short. I failed short trying to go for a lower high a little bit too early there. And then similarly, I put this, as I said, for Bitcoin, this aggressive long entry in because it did have a 2-day demand here, and also because we had a 2-day demand on Korea that hadn't been tested. I think this had been tested. This was a gap fill level, and you can sometimes get a bounce off those, and then in this case we didn't. It did fall through just to the next arrow. I think it was very slightly above, but it took out the lows that I think commented that I wanted here. But then again, barely got any bounce before dropping deeper. And then you can see here, similarly, the next orange arrow for more high probability, higher time frame demand zone there. So I want to see a little bit more what we're going to get on the indices today. And as I say, so Ether, I'm going to be more bearish now because we do have the 3-month supply. So I might revise some of those short entries that I've got higher, just to see where the 3-month supply is. Gosh, I'm not going to show that chart like that on this, but yeah, so we've got this 3 months. Actually, in fact, that was where I had that entry on this weekly. It was because it was confluent with the 3-month. So this might become my more highly probable zone, but it's difficult again because it's got lots of stops above here, so it could still run up to the 61 fib inside the 3-month supply. And it's the same issue as I have with a lot of alts. All the alts have very similar structures where they had a weekly up here, they had 5-day, 4-day various below, and they went to varying heights in this drop. But luckily for the most part, they were so my short entries and my alts have been pretty good. I've had the odd one, I think, for example, Fun Orca the week before, which went crazy, but and ran through a whole load of supply. But for the most part, they're getting rejections in the original 5 days or in the 2-week supply kind of areas. Let me see. Anyway, yeah, that's that. So yeah, like I say, weekly supply on Ether. I don't want to long into that, but nor do I really want to short it, being so close to 3-month demand. Perfect world, I'd want a little bit lower on this still, so it'd be nice to see a rejection off the weekly or off the 3-day inside it to get that move a little bit lower. On the majors, so I had similar issues on the majors that they haven't been as good. So the short entry is very good, but again, the long entry is not so much. I think they're the ones I've shared actually have held okay, but the ones that I just put more aggressive alerts on haven't. So EOS, EOS was like a little bit painful. It had made a daily demand in here, so I did put an alert for a break of the trend line, but I said be aware it needs to go through daily demand, and it didn't. So it ran up higher first before dropping, but then also obviously didn't get very far. So I then put another entry, a possible entry here on a 1 hour and 30 minute supply, I think, up there. It did get a decent drop off it, you can see here. But again, by then had made, I think, daily demand or some sort of demand in there that held as support, and now it's moved higher. And EOS and Atom, and again, are the challenge as well, because, in fact, I need to reset that alert up there, because I wanted them to take out trendline stops, and both of them only came sort of halfway up, just to be slightly awkward. So EOS, it's got a monthly supply up here, and then more aggressively I had a possible entry on, I think, a 4-day supply in there, a little bit lower. So I'll just reset that now. Ran at 800 alerts, and I will run out of all of them, overdoing the X's, Y's and Z's, and it's been a nightmare. It's painful. 1 month higher. It's been painful because I haven't been able to set any new alerts. It's very frustrating. So anyway, this does look like it wants to push higher still. It's going to make, what's that, a 2-day demand in there today. It's already kind of bounced off the same levels a daily, so it may not come back there. I kind of wanted it to come lower and down into here for a bounce, but didn't get that. Yeah, so I guess we need to see a little bit. EOS had a rebranding, so that's kind of why it ran hard and ran through my initial alert. Litecoin, I hadn't, it was similar to Ether. It couldn't even get past 12 hours supply here, and then it's dropped lower. I didn't have any higher low alert on that. Just move this to make the picture a bit bigger. And yeah, I just wanted to go that a little bit, for that to go just down to the next zone inside the 2-month demand there, which we haven't quite got to yet. Ripple, I had a great short there on the weekly supply, which just rejected immediately with no drawdown, so I hope you got that. This has made a weekly supply by a hair as well. Only a tiny amount, and then it has a 3-day up higher inside it. So like I say, I haven't put any new entries in yet, but I'm sort of in two minds about whether these are decent entries for the lower high there. Mainly because we're still on a higher low. Like if we go to a lower low, then this is a much higher probability entry, but as it stands, it's not necessarily that high probability. So I wanted to see a little bit more of what Bitcoin was doing. But these are, all of these have, like I say, all the alts pretty much have 3-day, 1 week supplies, so you're quite welcome to look for more aggressive shorts than my previously higher levels if you want to. And then finally BCH. So BCH, I had an aggressive long, so these shorts. These shorts I shared on my last stream. So I had an aggressive short here on 1-2-day supply. So that's obviously had a really nice reaction, and down into, I think this is just an 8-12 hour demand there. Similarly, this actually has a 3-week supply now. So again, I can't say I'm bullish on this. It's going to have a 3-week there at 325, and is going to have a 3-month. So this is, again, become one of the more bearish ones. So, but again, the challenge is, let me just remove some drawings so you can see, the challenge is we are still, in the case of BCH, this in fact is 6 months demand. We're still between 6 months demand, and then we still have this, now we're going to have this 3-month supply right above. So it just makes it a little bit challenging. And again, how high inside the 3-month is something I need to judge, like, are we going to just reject off the bottom of it here and get a drop, or is this going to push higher? Or is the 6 months demand going to win the battle and then the 3 months just breaks? When you look at it lower time frame, it just looks like a consolidation with a swing fair of the low, which means it could take out the high. But yeah, like I say, it's not something I want to trade aggressively, because for me this is still in a downward short structure, even if it's only got weak supply. So I want to think these through a little bit. Possibly bring some shorts in for lower highs, maybe here. If not, waiting for it to get all the way up there. So we do have a higher low. So like I say, weekly supply, but still weekly supply. So yeah, I'm babbling a bit, but just things to think about. BNB, so BNB, again, I had this short entry that I shared on the previously, which I've had for ages. You know, the alert went twice. It came really close to it, but didn't quite hit the level. It's holding 3-day demand down here. I did have another alert for, I think, a 12 or an 8-hour demand, 12-hour demand down here, which it hasn't got to. It's now made daily and 2-day supply. So, and I don't think it's made anything new. It's still got, so I did reset that alert for the high because this was an aggressive entry on the daily anyway, and there was a 3-week a bit higher, so I have reset that alert for a little bit higher if this does hold here for another push. And then I didn't love this zone, but I figured it was worth an alert purely because it's in this 2-month, and we've also got this bounce off the yearly level at the base. So it's got, yeah, the 2-month demand it's gone more deeply inside that, but yeah, with the annual demand, I think it's just still worth looking for longs on that. Link and Doge. So Link and Doge are both I had entries or possible longs on. I think like all of these had 3-day, 4-day, 5-day demands. So I had alerts, various more aggressive alerts that I put on those. All of them broke down. Or the ones I'm coming up with, you'll see, but anyway, in this case, Link and Doge broke down. Doge there has made a weekly supply as well, again, just by a tiny amount, so we'll see what the reaction is. And then Link here has made a 4-day supply, so again, like I've done debating more aggressive entries daily inside it, you know, this could get pushes higher in the zone, and or could flip the zone, so we'll see. ADA, I'm also remain torn, so ADA had this, I've talked previously, I had this weekly supply, then confirmed into a 2-week supply. I didn't look for shorts on it, as you can see there, because it's coming from 6-month demand. So I still want to be bullish on this, but now again, it's made a new weekly supply just here, and potentially I think a 3-day just a bit below it. So this was an entry I had from the previous stream as for a possible long here on 12-hour demand. So again, we'll just see what the reaction is. It's just taken out the low here, still got a lot of supply to get through, but yeah, be conscious that this has got a weekly supply immediately above. And as I say, if we start to see these break, then we can look for re-entries, because it's not dissimilar to these structures here. So this is probably a decent example from what we had from alts in the last consolidation. So in this case, I think ADA was down, whereas a lot more of them were sideways. But again, you can see here that, for example, here, this created a 3-day supply there, and it did reject it, but it came back for the higher low, went a bit higher in the 3-day supply, did reject it again, but still maintained the higher low before the breakout. So if this is the equivalent here, it's very early days, we could still be at the top here and still have months of drift of death, perhaps down to here first. But like I say, it makes me slightly more concerned about putting a more aggressive shorts in here, particularly in this case because it has this 6-month demand. Yeah, so like I say, nothing new on that as yet. If I put some new entries on these, I'll do an update in the next couple of days, but for now, I'm not going to. So the final majors, Sol and Atom. So Atom had a new 4-day demand, and Atom's just been the bane of my existence, so I might give up trading it. Just go zoom that out for a second so you can see. So it had a 2-day demand, so it got a scalp long there. It had a daily demand, so it got another scalp long, but again was unable to break. I was very much hoping it was going to have a breakout and get above that trend line into the next supply up there, but it didn't. Then made a 4-day demand there, or possibly a 5-day. 4-day, and the problem with these is that they all tested too quickly. Like what you really want, so this was actually a decent 4-day demand. It was still a swing fail of the high, but at least had a decent green close on that. But the problem is when you get an immediate test on the next candle, then it's not ideal. Like what you really want is another 4-day candle going up, or at least going sideways, and then the test. So that's sort of why some of these are broken down. And again, here you can see the sort of mess we had on this side. There was a 4-day supply and it rejected it, but then went through it, then came back below. So when we have these consolidations, they can be messy. So again, we might get that same messiness here. And overarchingly, I was bearish on Atom and most of the other majors, to be honest. I want them lower because they've had too many tests on this support. but obviously that doesn't mean they can't bounce in between, so I was very much hoping we'd get some sort of move up here first. This also looks like, so I haven't looked at all the 3 months, so again this looks like now it's going to create a 3 month right above price, so this is not something I want to long anymore, even if it does get up to take out those the trend line stops. This, hide my drawings, you know, if it closes below this 4.7 level, which is looking fairly likely, although it's got 8 hours to go, so I guess it could still rescue itself. But if it closes below that 3 month level, then I would expect this to go lower. And then there's got a monthly supply inside it, so again my short is 4 day, then 1 week, 1 month supply, so it could go higher, but I still expect that probably to come down here now. So all the competing timeframes, and then it's up to you, like if you want to look for an aggressive short on this 4 day supply here, that's entirely up to you. If this confirms the 3 month and goes up there before, then I'll probably delete this alert. Because coming off 3 month supply, I wouldn't expect this to hold, and it wasn't the best entry or the best zone anyway. And then so near and dot, I had these again, so I placed these entries for the previous stream. Excuse me. So this has actually wicked through that 3 day a little bit. I think there was 3 day and 2 day demand in there on. But it's got wicked through a little bit, but I think it got the initial bounce off the alert, so yeah it did, but then straight up into this 3 day level and then back down, so it's gone a little bit lower today, but it's still holding there, so that's kind of interesting. Didn't make a new weekly supply, but it's got a weekly up here and then various other things, so, and as I said previously, like I didn't want to generally look for shorts. I mean, while this has a very clean rejection of this 5 day zone there, I was reluctant to look for shorts in case these went for the trend line stops and up into the higher supplies, because it's sort of about time they had a decent bounce. But so far, not the case. This rejected just simply off that 5 day level then. So yeah, but it has had a bounce and has made a higher low. So I guess we just need to see. It could create it hasn't made that 3 day supply, but that is a today close. So again, if it closes below this level, we could create a 3 day supply. Part of the reason I didn't put the aggressive ones on this, and I should have kind of taken heed of that advice for the other majors, was because we had these trend line stops through here. So I thought those would get taken out at least for a bounce on the lower zones, and that's kind of what we've got. Dot was basically the same thing. Similarly, actually, sorry, didn't check if this. So this does look like it's going to make a 3 month supply as well. Oh no, my apologies, it's the previous. So it already has a 3 month zone, which is swing failed and have closed back below. So nothing new on the 3 month on that, and already has the monthly supply and 2 monthly supply above. Dot, on the other hand, is likely again to create 3 month supply here. So again, to reiterate, huge zones can go all the way to the top of it and still respect it if it wants to, so just be a little bit careful, and they're not strong zones because of the fact we haven't had a significant close below the zone, but also things I don't want to long into particularly. There's other things I'd rather long if necessary, unless I see some decent high time frame demand. So yeah, this looks like it's going to create the 3 month at the same level as the 3 days, so something like this I would be more inclined to look for a short. Oops, copy that. I'd be more inclined to look for a short here, so I will place that as a possible short entry there after the stream. Again, still does have the trend line stops above here that it could go for. It took out the trend line stops here that I was looking for into this demand, so again we'll just see the reaction there. That is dot. So like I said, I'll have to do another stream where I share if I put new entries, and if anything sort of like starts to look a bit more aggressive. So Sol was similar to Atom, and this is not looking good either. Sol was similar to, not Atom, to Link and, what was the other one? Dogecoin, in the, oops, didn't mean to do that. It should be a 3 month. really annoyingly, they've changed the handles on the crosses. So this is going to create a 3-month supply. Yeah, so the handles on the crosses, you can see now, can't see now, you can see now they put them in the square. So now if you make the cross bigger, you can't ever make it smaller again, which is really annoying. Yeah, they're the worst handles I've ever seen, but luckily I've got the template saved. But yeah, so anyway, this is Sol is going to create a 3-month supply here, so that's also not ideal. It's already got a monthly up here, which I've had alerted for a while. And yeah, as I've said previously, I always wanted this to come down and take out those lows, so it's taking its sweet time doing it. But again, another one that it's going to create the 3-month where that wick is. This is the other challenge. Like when they wick and reject the zone before it confirms, I'm then never quite sure if I should put another alert there at the start of the zone or not. So in this case, you can see Sol. So I want to just observe these and see if it does react in the same place as that previous wick. So Sol created a weekly supply. I did have, so again, this was a more aggressive long entry on the 3-day up here. I think I put 3-day, 4-day, 5-day, but this was the first to go, and it just had a tiny bounce, and then yeah, just fell back down again. And I also had the reticence of having the trend line stops below here, which I still have that reticence. For the moment, it's still holding the daily demand in there, but again, more likely this is going to have a rejection somewhere in here because of the 3-month supply. Barring any quarter-end fuckery that goes on. But either way, if it comes up here, we're looking for shorts from the monthly, and if it comes down here, I'm looking for longs from that monthly. And this is sort of trading in the middle of nowhere for me now. Right, yeah, so that's the majors, and obviously I've gone 45 minutes already. Let me just have a quick look at what Bitcoin is doing while I'm not watching. Bitcoin and Ether, okay, not really much. So just pushing at that supply, but not having closed above. So yeah, really just looking for if these are going to create new demand here. So we've got the 4-hour close. Clock's changed, so the 4-hour close now at 5 o'clock. So we've got the 4-hour, and I think the 8-hour close will be at 5 o'clock as well. Yeah, so a close above there, it could flip this. It's flipped the 8 and 12-hour there, but it needs to get a close above, so we just need to see a little bit more. This could go a little bit higher in there into the 8-hour supply. So, but again, this is still in a local downtrend. You know, it can wick around and do what it likes in here, but this is still on the 8-hour is still in a downtrend. 8 and 4-hour there. And let's see what the indices are doing. So indices have come back up through that 4-hour, in the case of S&P, and on its way through it in the case of NASDAQ. The Dow has taken out the gap, closed that gap down, and a little bit more. So these could run up, you know, to this very, very big gap or big drop that we left imbalanced, that we left on Friday from the big drop. Normally expect them to do that on a Monday, but we'll see. Okay, so anyway, yeah, moving on to the alts. So like I said, I had heaps of alerts, some of which worked better than others, yeah, I can't really go through them because there were just too many, and also I haven't, there were so many that have been alerted previously, so they were already on my list, so I haven't really kept track. These are a few that went today or in the last 24 hours. People were asking about Layer yesterday, and saying, that was, obviously one of the strongest ones. So yes, I had an alert here for possible swing fail at the high, so that's worked out quite nicely, at least just as a starting move. I have put another alert in there for a 1-hour, 2-hour supply inside this new 12-hour, but obviously it's still bullish, being still on 2-day demand. It's got a 4-day, 1 week below, so I have alerted those. The thing with this is it just really reminded me of L3, so if you just look at that chart for a moment, or maybe I'll just copy it so I can place it over, oops. Copy that so I can place it over L3. So let's do the daily. So you can see this is layer. Made that a bit too big. So this is layer, and you can see that there's a reasonable amount of similarity to this section. This section, you know, and in the case of layer, like it didn't take out the high, which, sorry, in the case of L3, it didn't take out the high, and it looked like I thought it was going to break out there, but then it ended up breaking down. But it's similar here, like this has, you know, we're kind of, i.e. being at this point in time, or at this point in time, that potentially I see the possibility of this then dropping, similar to here, dropping all the way back down to the base here. So be conscious of that, and that could give you some nice shorts. So this, as I said, put the, I'm going to delete that off there now, but I put the aggressive short on layer on that 2 hourly supply in there. This is something else I've noticed recently, actually, just to be conscious of this. So this is going to be irrelevant in this case because it's a big 12-hour, but in some cases what we've got a 12-hour supply in here, and then we've got an untested 1 or 2 day above, sorry, 1 or 2 hour above. So in the case here, you can see these wicks didn't quite test that, but in some cases this is a 12-hour. And what I've said, I'll show it actually on form in a minute, but what's happening in some cases is that it's getting some small rejection here, but then wicking up into higher zones. You can actually see there is also, so yeah, just be a little bit choppy here, so just be a little aware this also could go up to that 30-minute at the top there. But in some of these cases, it's going through that initial zone and into the higher zone before rejecting. So I'll show that on form. In fact, it's potentially done it again today. But what we had here, so maybe it was an 8-hour, not a 12-hour. So I actually put that in the comment on the alert. So I said there is an 8-hour supply here, but there's an untested hourly above. So just be conscious that it could go higher. So I then reset the alert. So we got a decent reaction off the 8-hour, but it still managed a higher low. And then went higher, took out these highs into this hourly that hadn't quite been tested. So with this one I had a 4-hour, 1 hour or 2 hour alert on there. So it's rejected the 4-hour, but it missed this zone. And so similarly here, I put on the alert that I was a little bit more skeptical of this. So 4-hour supply, unsure if this gets high soon, because at that point it was quite close to it, then maybe it's still bullish. But it's also had a daily supply, so I thought that alert was worth putting in. But also again, what we've had happen here, so we had the 4-hour supply, and it's just wicked through again into this hourly zone, the 2 hourly zone at the top, and then we'll just see what the reaction is. But I thought that one, you know, I was a bit skeptical of that one, but I thought it was worth having because it had this daily, not the best daily, but still a daily. So yeah, we just need to see again what if we get any more breakdown on this, because I'm still looking for potential shorts on this to go significantly lower and or just break down entirely, but we'll see. If I see that daily flip to demand, then maybe I'll look for longs. Excuse me. And the only other one I should probably comment on here is HBAR, because like I say, so as far as most of them go, like there are various things are on demand, some things are broken demand, a lot of things are wanting to make higher lows, etc., or are failing to make higher lows. But HBAR this is the first time HBAR, so after the original rejection of the highs and then the retest, it's the first time it's actually hit a decent time frame demand. In fact, it hasn't even hit it, it's slightly above. So there's a 4-day and a 3-day there. And then we've got a 3-month a bit below. So it's not the best 3-month because it's double candle, but it's a 3-month level. So I do think you should keep an eye on HBAR. It has I did have a short entry for possible 2-weekly supply up here. So maybe, so I was considering earlier that while this hasn't quite hit the zone that I wanted here, you know, if it does, or if it just goes up from here, then maybe we'll get a rejection there down into this 3-month demand before the move. So while I'm still bullish on this, I think it's worth watching. You know, if you've got a weekly or a 2-weekly supply, it's certainly worth keeping an eye on it for possible shorts you know, maybe we are at this point in time. In fact, or at this point in time as opposed to this one, maybe we're at the first point in time, you know, where it's going to give some sort of a rejection. So this did actually reject previously before pushing lower. It also didn't quite make the, there's a 2-week demand here, it didn't quite make that on the wick. Maybe there was something a little bit higher, I'm not sure. But anyway, it could at least give it, you know, if we're here on this point, we could get a scalp there, or maybe it's going to push higher, but also give scalps, or we're on this side of the V shape, and we're just going to fall off here. Again, don't forget that overarching, while we've got all these 3-month, 6-month demand, etc., there's a lot of stuff going on lower. Had a big push up, could retrace all of it if it wants to, but also it's off a lower high. So while it looks very strong and bullish, it hasn't managed to break the previous high. So this could still also come back and to break the previous low. But anyway, we will assess that situation if we come to it. Anyway, that's that. So yeah, just finally, I would just like to go over the Ys and Zs on the watch list. Scrolling all the way down, and then we're finally done. I mean, and then I have started going through already and putting in the 3-month, most of the 3-month supply, because many of these things have got 3-month supply, and I've said in the previous videos that I already started adding them in even at that point. I don't think I've had any hit, so that just sort of shows the general market weakness. And I like some of them are challenging. So again, I'll try and go through these relatively quickly, but show the challenges that we're having. So on something like YGG, for example, so we're going to create a 3-month supply all the way up here, and we're in a 3-month demand that kind of got tapped just before the top of it previously, but now it's gone deeper inside. So looking at this, you can be bullish, but then also we have this bigger downtrend. So are we just bearish, where this is a bearish retest and we're going to break this demand? And in many cases, we're seeing that happen. But again, I'm still trying to trade in both directions. So in the case of YGG, we're going to make a new 3-month up here. So that would be my preferred short entry if it gets there. There's a 2-month before that, and then also a 2-weekly. So I've gone slightly more aggressive, putting an alert for the 2-weekly supply in there. It may not work. We'll see, like if it's ready to reverse, you know, it is potentially at the start of this last impulse up. So it's possible it doesn't work, possible it just runs straight through that. The difficulty then is, you know, it's just going to go straight into the next supply. But again, we just look at zones as and when they're hit. So this is a decent weekly supply. It's not the strongest in the world, but it's not bad. Or 2-weekly supply. We've got a 2-week here that hasn't quite been tested. And then I can see we've got a bunch of 5 days, 4 days, etc. So similar to what I've said for everything else, that this hasn't created a 5-day as yet, but if it closes below there, then it will. It's got a 4-day inside here. So again, like I don't know if I want to aggressively short in these zones, because we are in this higher time frame demand. So I don't know if we're just at the point in structure, for example, like here. We could be here, where we're still drifting down and we're going to have one last drop, or we could have had that bottom, you know, that's the wick up. This case has also created a 4-day supply in there. It's had, you know, some pushes into it and eventually has broken it. So maybe that's what we're going to get here. And then similarly here, we had a weekly supply. Again, like it came close to it, and then eventually ran straight through it. So we could be at a point that we're going to start running through. And I don't know if we're going to put in candles quite this big, because we do have these 3-month and monthly supplies that are going to appear just above. But we'll see. And we're going to need a significant influx into the market for that to happen. So this is got a 2-week supply, so I put a more aggressive short on this. So you'll see a mix of these, like a couple of them I put more aggressive shorts, but for the most part I haven't. But yeah, so 2-week supply in here, or a weekly supply inside the 2 weeks. So I've got an alert there for a possible short, 2-month and 3-month if we do get higher. And then this obviously is already already made a low where I wanted it, but it hasn't given any new demand really to be trading longs off, and with so much supply above. And yeah, so this is just indicative of what most of the alts look like, you know, that they all made these sort of trend line stops, they all broke down, they've all got 3 and 4 day supply above, and daily in there as well, and yeah, they're not necessarily at levels I want to look for longs. I'd rather look for ones that have better structures, because there are a handful that still look decent, whereas ones like these, yes, they might go up from here, it could just be stop hunt and then move, but I want to see that happen on some of them first and these zones break. So that's YGG. Oh, I missed YFI. It's doing them backwards, so pretty much exactly the same scenario on this. So in this, except in this case, so we have the trend line stops here, but in this case it made a lower low. I've got an alert here on all-time low for the possibility of a swing failure, and this is also going to create a 3-month supply at that very close level. So that's very close, and then the 6-month in that. I'm not sure why I didn't put a short. I think, yeah, so I haven't, so again, this is a massive 3-month supply, obviously. I haven't put a short because of this range. So we are still in a range, we are still on a higher low. If we get a rejection in here and it drops down, then I'd be more inclined to short a retest of the 3-month if it comes back up there. But I think it's a very big zone and it's very close, and it really is quite choppy in there. There is this 2-week supply in here. I'm just looking at some of the chop. Yeah, I think it's just like I said, it's another challenging one. Like it's too low for me to short it. It's at the start of the impulse, so I don't want to be shorting it here. But then I don't necessarily expect this to go up from here with a 3-month supply that's going to confirm right there. So, but I think there's better things to short, like I've said, you know, things that are already in all-time lows or have already broken down, that are down here in the equivalent. This is just something I would want to watch on this, I think, rather than actually trade it. ZBCN. So this was one, again, I was hoping, so you can see again it's in the range, it kind of pushed higher in the range and then hit weekly supply, but it did have a 2-monthly demand below. So I was trying to be more bullish on this. It got some, yeah, we did get some decent entries for longs on it previously. It hasn't quite created a weekly supply, so again, it's just like I think there was just not much I wanted to do on this. It's a little bit messy. It's probably going to create a 3-day here, but again, just very, very tight. So I'm a little bit unsure on this, that if this is just, you know, rejected off there and it's just going to go lower, or, you know, if it's going to pick that up as a higher low and then another higher low and then go for another run. So I'm a little bit uncertain on that. I had a slightly less aggressive short re-entry, so I did a short re-entry on this hourly after we had the drop. So we had a bounce here that gave a long, I'll just show the lower time frame. Bounce here that gave a long, and then it did make a 3-day demand, but it just ran straight through it back to take out the lows. I mean, no, it is holding here as support, but I'm just not convinced this is going to hold. It's a decent support level. It has held as support multiple times, but you know, all the alts now are at points where they are, you know, are they going to continue to hold support, or are they, you know, now having hit this zone like 15 times, is it going to finally break down? So I think I left that entry in there on hourly. There's an hourly supply there, and then there's an hourly above. And yeah, after the big drop, I was thinking, okay, maybe we'll get a short entry, and like I say, I was just a bit too conservative because they had rejected off the daily there. But I'm leaving that alert there. And then I think, yeah, again, I didn't want to put any long entries. There's nothing I want to put for now. It is in 2-month demand, so it could continue to run from here if it wants to. But I just need to see something that's tradable. There's nothing for me that's really tradable there right now. And if it makes this new 3-day supply even less so. ZCX. So this is another example of one that I had a more aggressive entry on. There's be a 5-day or a 4-day demand there. 5-day demand. But again, so I commented on this in the channel. I was like, I said I put a whole load of aggressive entries on the 5-day, 4-day demands because of what we see here, for example, that they do go up without breaking supply. They then can hold for the continuation. But in this case, obviously, we haven't got it. So in this example, in many cases, I said watch out for the ones that have just immediately rejected supply. Like so things like this, I would have wanted to go higher first. But this obviously rejected a 2-week supply, so it's coming down to a competing, not as high time frame demand. So it did get a little bounce off the level, but it's going deeper inside it now. And I think this one was one that was worth watching because of the fact it is a potential swing fail of the low. So you can keep an eye on it. Like it's still holding their zone for now, but yeah, not exactly looking at, it's still in that local downtrend, and it's not exactly looking strong right now. It's going to create a 3-month supply up here, so potentially that could look for shorts if it runs back up into there ever. Okay, so Zcash and Zen were the only two, I think, when I looked at the Zs that I said were worth looking for, worth keeping an eye on the higher time frame for long entries. And Zcash has held quite well, Zen less so. Unfortunately, this didn't hit the alert that I had, so there's a 4-day or 5-day demand in there, and then a weekly confirmed below it. So from a high time frame perspective, this is on a monthly demand. It's got a 3-month inside it. So to show you without the drawings, so this 3-month demand, it was one of the ones that swing failed all time low, and then it really pumped back up through it last year. And obviously now is retraced. So this is, if you're going to be bullish on anything, this was kind of one of the ones that I thought could run. However, having said that, it is still coming out of 3-month supply. This is still potentially a retracement of that last down move, the choppy last down move into the 3-month supply. But given it's made 3-month demand, let me just check and see if it's made 6 months. No, just 3-month demand, and has held it. And it's actually had a decent up month in March compared to most of the alts which didn't. I thought it was worth looking for the possibility of long re-entries on this. So in there, if we get a retest down there, we did have that drop already, and it hasn't actually hit the zone. Even with a more aggressive 4-day, it hasn't quite hit. So if that does get a drop back into there, then you can look for a possibility of long re-entry. If it fails, then I'll be looking down here on the weekly demand, and then possible shorts up here on that retest of that 3-month zone. And then also there's a daily supply in there that I was looking at earlier that I thought maybe. So there's a daily supply, and then there's also a 2-week above there, so that would be the more aggressive short entry if it just rejected a retest of this 3-month level, or potentially here if it pushes a bit higher. Notification on my phone reminded me I have to pay my rent. Okay, so yeah, be conscious again. This can come deeper inside, but this is one of the very few that I could be more bullish on if I wanted to be. ZENT is one of the ones I could be more bearish on. So again, like many other things, this is a weekly supply. It hasn't broken this wick from the original drop. However, I do think it was worth, because this is breaking down from all-time low, this is one of the ones that I thought was worth looking for a more aggressive short. So again, just see what happens if that gets back up into there. Has just rejected off that all-time low orange level there. So it may not, and it is a little bit choppy in here, but again, so I've just set the entry, set a possible alert there for a more aggressive short on that in case it's just going to break down and go to zero. And then failing that, this will also make 3-month supply above here. So I think there is a 2-month in there as well, but it might have just been a little bit choppy, which is why I didn't want to. I was already tested the 2-month in there. That was why I didn't put an entry there. But there is a 3-month there, and also I might consider this weekly in here if it does get back up there. But yeah, so certainly in the short term, more aggressively, you can look for a short entry on that weekly supply in there. Zen, like I said, like I did again, similar to Zcash, want to be more bullish on this because it's in 6-month demand. But it was one of the ones that then failed to hold, I believe, or it's trying to. No, yeah, see, I think I had an alert here for 4-day demand, and it's just taken a wick through it, or 5-day demand. But yeah, you can keep an eye on that. If it does hold there, I reset a new alert for a 5-day down here that hasn't been tested, but and then it gets just a bit choppy below that. But because this is 6 month demand, I think it's worth looking for the possibility this is going to suddenly perk up and give long entries. I've got a more aggressive short here on 1 week, 2 week supply. But I've said be aware it's coming from 6 months demand, so this could just run through that if it suddenly does decide to be strong, if we get some sort of privacy coin narrative. Seeing if I've got any chat. I'm not getting many views today. Quite a mixture of views. Like sometimes I get loads of views and other times I just don't. I don't know if it's really a time of day thing, but also it's probably also a Bitcoin thing. I think people just disappear off the radar when Bitcoin's not doing very well. Yeah, given that's been the case for the last few months, I think people are now sort of losing faith. But each of the bounces, maybe they come back. Anyway, what we're seeing on a lot of the alts as well, we have this daily supply before the bigger drop, a sort of large but clean daily supply. So just watch out for those. This could reject a little bit lower, but again, this is an aggressive entry given it's coming off 6 months demand. So I wouldn't necessarily say blind short there, but you can keep an eye on it. And or if it does get up there and reject, then you look for the long entries. And that's the other part of the reason that I put some of these more aggressive shorts in on things which do have major demand, because I may not want to short there, but I may want to look for, okay, it's now made a new weekly demand, so I'm going to look for a long entry. ZEREBRO. I was using the Sol chart for this. I'm just going to smoke a second half of my cigarette. So I booked a trip to Thailand next month in order to address my health issues, which continue to be smoking far too much. So fingers crossed I'll come back at least a less smoker, if not a non-smoker. Okay, ZEREBRO. So this, with hindsight, was a little bit foolish. So again, I put an aggressive entry on what was probably a 5-day demand, 5 or 4 day demand in there. I know I was looking at this time and just ignoring it. I knew this was in a 2 weekly supply. So, you know, but I think it just, sometimes when they take so long consolidating, I think, oh, well, maybe it's going to break. But, you know, you can look, when you see the 2 week chart, it wasn't a strong 2 weekly supply. But when you see the 2 week chart, then, you know, clearly, again, it's still in a downtrend, and it could just be taking its time, rejecting before wanting to take out that low. I think also if you look at the previous rating chart, I kind of feel like there might be support here, but I'm actually not sure. I need to go back and check that. What have we got here now? So now we kind of have a new weekly here. It's offset, not a very good one, but again, does have a new weekly supply there, and it's going to have a new 5-day at that pink line. So again, this is a possibility for an aggressive short. I think I didn't put it there, I think just because I've been a little bit long biased, because I've been looking for longs on this, and I liked the double bottom and the consolidation. So I said, you know, that I actually had said previously that this was worth watching for the possibility of a double bottom breakout. But obviously now that's not seeming very likely, or it's coming back just for another test. So I'm possibly a little bit too biased, but yeah, you can look for shorts here on this 4-day or that daily inside it if you want to, because it's, again, not looking overly promising at the moment, unless the whole market decides to pick up. It's got a 3-month supply up here. You know, if it does suddenly get some epic breakout, that's where we'll be looking for shorts. I haven't set that alert yet because I don't want to waste alerts on things that might never happen. Zero. This was, I think, one I haven't set alerts on because there's nothing I could really see that I liked. It has a 6-month supply up here that it tested and rejected already. Show the 6 months, so it just closed below, tested the immediate candle, and then it's just dumped straight off that. Not going to create a new 3-month. It has a 2-month inside it, so the 2-month also got tested, but again with the 6-month inside that, with the wick quite hard up into it. And because of that wick, and then so we've got a 2-week supply, then we've gone higher up inside that. So I think, yeah, again, my bias is short on this, but there's just nowhere I want to short, and it's just wicking around a bit too much. But again, 2-week supply, it's a 2-week supply because it hasn't broken the low. But as a result, I don't really want to look for longs on this. So much like everything else, you know, it's holding a 3-day demand, in fact, but it's in 2-week supply. So I don't want to look for longs. But But then also similarly, that just it's not clean enough for me to look for shorts or for any shorts that I can see either. If you want to look for a long entry, you know, you could look, see if this takes out those lows into this daily demand and bounces. But again, like I say, because it's coming off 6 month supply, 2 month supply, and potentially 2 weekly supply, for me, this is potentially a downtrend. And I've yet to see any of these candles hold. I mean, I still need to go back through. I'll go back through the full March watch list in the next couple of days. But these big pumps that we've had, I just don't know. I need to check, you know, are they making higher lows? Or are we just going to get something like this, where it comes down, you know, it gets a little bit of a bounce off a higher low, then it comes right down to the base and gets more of a bounce, but again, ultimately still makes a lower high before a bigger drop. So, you know, are we just still at this point in time where it's tried to make a higher low, now we're going to get the lower high, and then we're getting the final bigger drop like this. So I guess we'll see, but yeah, there's nothing I really want to, look for longs on this right now. Nothing I'm particularly confident about being under 2 week supply. ZETA, similar scenario. It's got this just missed my alert of 2 month supply here, unfortunately. I'm not sure if it's going to create a 3 month. Nope. So you know, I've left that alert in there. You know, it now does have. Oh, it's likely to create a 3 day supply in here, so I've already drawn it in, but it's not necessarily confirmed yet. If it does get another push, I would still look for shorts in there, and or obviously various zones higher on the 2 month. And then longs if it gets back down to this 2 day, 4 day demand down here. But you know, it is for now. I was, you know, tossing it up. For now, it is holding this 4 hour zone, so it could run from here. But again, like I say, I'm just not seeing so far many of these. You know, we're getting the initial test on these 4 hour demands. In this case, it has had a significant bounce, but in many cases, it's just getting a brief bounce and then drifting back all the way back to the start of the impulse. But I need to check them. I need to check those that have done these types of pumps last week or the week before and see where they're at now. I'll try and maybe have another look at the end of the session. Lost my mouse. I think these wireless mouses have like a shelf life. This is not reconnecting now. There we go. I feel like they've got a shelf life. They like my one from my laptop just broke, and I've just ordered a new one. And to be fair, I'm buying the cheapest ones you can buy pretty much. But yeah, it's like after 2 years, I feel like they die. So yeah, my last one, my one from my laptop is 2 years. I think this one's around 2 years, and it sort of seems to be on its way out now. Yeah, so anyway, you know, this possibly could hold here. You know, if you want to look for a scalp, you know, you might get a scalp off this, and then at least it's an easy invalidation if it goes below this level. My preference would be for longs in here, but again, I don't like the trend line stops there, but we'll see. ZETA obviously has an all-time low, scroll over, but all-time low at 0.15 below there. Again, I probably will remove this if we did get up to the 2 month supply before testing this. So I guess we'll see on that. ZEUS. It's another one that's been a little bit stronger. Oh, I've got a random 3 week level. Okay, yeah, so one of the ones with more of a challenge because, so we had a monthly demand and it's whipped through and swing failed the low. And now it's coming back to test that level. So again, I'm uncertain if this is going to hold, potentially could hold a retest here and pick up that monthly level back as support. So again, I did have an alert on this daily demand here. Again, this is a more aggressive alert. It hasn't quite hit it, but is, again, well, did it hit it? No, it hasn't quite hit it, but obviously it's held a bounce just above it. Oops. But again, it's another example, you know, is it a bearish retest, like where it's just come up into 2 week supply and it's now just going to continue the breakdown. So from a 2 week perspective, it's still going to be in a downtrend. But then is it going to pick up this support to push back into an uptrend? And that's, you know, on the ones that are more bullish, that's the challenge really. So I've got another alert up here for a short, possible short on 3 day supply. up near the high there, just again, just more conservative. But if it does hold this month demand on a swing failure, you know, this is something that could potentially run if it wants to. But obviously that's much higher time frame, so see if this daily demand holds here. There's another one lower if it does decide to go down to take out some more stops. And then there's a daily supply there that could also reject on a retest, but I just wouldn't take that now it's come all the way. If that had tested immediately before, that's fine, but now if it's once it's coming out of daily demand and is potentially in a higher time frame demand down here, I don't want to look for shorts on a lower high, I don't think. And it's, you know, it's difficult because, you know, similarly here, for example, you can argue that was exactly the same, you know, that this point in time is around here and it's still got rejection of supply here to go lower, back deeper into demand. So it is entirely possible that this you know, gets a bounce here, rejects there and goes lower. So we just need to see what happens. Trying to delete that. My keyboard's gone now as well. Zig, I posted this a few times because I had so many alerts go off on this, so it's come up in my recent alerts discussion and analysis. I've been just waiting to see if this would break down for such a long time. You know, we're still holding this weekly and 3-day demand, but, you know, it's consistently been making more and more supply above. I had alerts for the break of the trend line. A couple of them went off. And then shorting retest, so it had an aggressive retest up here that gave a really nice short, broke the trend line again, but then came all the way back on itself. And then another short alert, I think, I don't know what that was, a daily supply or something in there, or a 3-day supply maybe. But again, it's come back higher in the zone and is again still, now it's made a weekly supply, so maybe it will finally now fall off a cliff. I had a final alert here on the 2-week supply up here inside the 2-month. And it's also going to make a 3-month supply there. So again, you know, if you do get a move back up into, what's that, the 101 to 104 level, then I'd probably look for more confidently on a short there. Although no, in my luck, but then everybody start trading the trend line breakout, so I guess we'll see. But yeah, I just look for a reaction if we do get back into there, and also look for a reaction now. You know, if you start seeing a breakdown here, then maybe finally this could give the bigger breakdown. On the long side, I've got an alert here for weekly demand. There's a couple of levels in there, and then there's a monthly below that, so we just have to see. You know, it could, given this is a sort of a choppy area, this could dip deeper into the monthly zone. I'm going to put that in the alert actually. 1 month just below. No, I'm not going to put that in the alert because my keyboard now is not working. There's an issue with Bluetooth on my computer as well as all the other issues, that it just sort of turns itself off when it feels like it. So anyway, yeah, I will add to that alert saying there's a monthly demand a bit lower. ZIL. So this is another one that's going to create a 3-monthly supply. So I have put an alert on I already had an alert, I think, on the 2-week supply there, which it didn't quite hit. So I've just left it alone and saying that because there's also going to be a 3-month in there now. Maybe it's going to run higher in the zone, but again, just we'll see what the reaction is as and when it gets there. And mainly again with ZIL, because we've on this weekly demand and we've had a bounce close to it, and now we've actually hit the weekly demand. So yes, possibly it's going to be a swing failure if this low and can run, but I would prefer this to come down. You know, I added in a 3-day and a 5-day demands like before this 2-monthly, but I would like it to come down into the 2-month, if not into this weekly, really. Having seen quite a lot of the other alts and just so many tests on this zone here, and now it's broken through this zone, it's got an aggressive retest, and now it's come back down again, unable to make a higher high from there. Yes, okay, the swing failure there, potentially it can run, but I'm not particularly confident on this right now, so I'm happy to look for a more aggressive short on this. And in fact, you know, it's got a weekly rider price, which it may have just rejected off today, so some of these may just do simple weekly supply rejections and just come straight down. I guess we'll see in the next couple of days. ZKJ, this is obviously one of the more bullish charts. There's very few bullish charts, but this is one of them. It had a monthly demand. I did post this in the channel without an alert, just saying at this point, see if it holds. I'm not sure if this wick came down only on spot, or whether that wick would have screwed people over on futures as well. But you know, the wick down and then came back up and consolidated again. So again, there's a 2 week, then a 3 week, and then the 1 month demand. So I've just put in a more aggressive alert on that if it gets a test into there, and then potential shorts if it gets up into the 2.6 area. Just a weird looking chart, really, isn't it? Yeah, just see those alerts as and when they hit. ZK is another one I've put a more aggressive short alert on. So again, this is obviously in a bigger downtrend, has broken the all-time low, come up and retested that. So with that new weekly supply in there, and there's a 4-day, it's a pretty big zone. So, and it is a weak zone, as I've said. You know, it hasn't broken this all-time low from there yet. But again, because it's in this sort of bigger downtrend and it potentially is an all-time low, although there might be history that I don't have on this chart, it's worth watching for a more aggressive short and back where. So again, I had the hope, I had a long entry in the hope this would flip 5-day demand. I think it's 5-day or a 4-day. There's a 4-day demand in there, but it's fallen back through it. So we're looking for that retest on the weekly and 4-day supply for a bigger drop, potentially. So you can see on these, like I've only put maybe 2 or 3 more aggressive ones like this. And only on the ones which have just already kind of broken down, not ones that are in major demand here, because I'm just a little, like I say, a little bit uncertain, and we could still be in this type of structure where, again, you know, it's exactly the same here, that this would have created a demand there, which potentially you could have looked for longs on. It's then fallen back through, but still made a higher low and then has run. So we could still make a similar structure to that there. I can't use the undo button either on my keyboard because the keyboard is not working. So yeah, so this is very possible. This still does a similar structure here, but I just need to see a bit more build up. But at least it should give some sort of a reaction off the weekly, even if it doesn't then make a lower low. Even if it just gives a day or so of down and you kind of go, okay, this isn't going to drop and you're going to get out. That's okay. ZRC, only 3 more to go now. So ZRC is another one. Yeah, I have put the more aggressive one. Exactly the same scenario as ZK, really. Like it had a 3-day demand or something in there that I was looking for a long. It's fallen straight back through it, flipped the weekly supply. I didn't put it on the weekly, or again, you know, it could still just reject now, but I put the alert on just the 3-day a little bit higher. On this, just to have some variety in my life. So yeah, you can watch if that comes back up into the 3-day there. Be conscious it does have this big drop candle, so it could go higher inside the 3-day. But that's where the alert will go, and just see what happens, see if it gets a little bit of a push into here. And again, if it flips the zone, then great, then we can start looking for longs again. And then on this, at least, you know, this has actually got a decent sized gap up to supply all the way up here if it does end up going that high. And ZEREBRO, so this one, you know, it had a 2-month supply, it's rejected off it. It's got the retest rejecting off the 12-hour supply in there, and in this case it actually made a new daily supply and it has rejected off that too. And this is similar to kind of a couple of the ones I think I showed at the beginning. I can't remember which names, but as to, you know, are they just consolidating here for another move? Or are they going to just either retrace this whole up move and or play out the 2-month supply here? So from a high time frame perspective, you know, this has 2-month supply, it's come up and tested into it. This could now just go down and take out the low. So that's why I'm not putting any aggressive longs on this, but it could still go higher in the supply if it wanted to and still respect that 2-day. But really, you know, if it's going to reject off a 2-month supply like that, you would kind of want to see that drop happen a little bit more quickly. This is a bit of a consolidating drop, so it is possible this still wants to make another move. And then, yeah, so I don't think, yeah, so then I've got another alert up here for a 5-day supply, and then there's a 2 and 3 week, may or may not have already been tested, so there's a 3 week at the top there. So again, the 5 days is just a slightly more aggressive one, 4 or 5 day there, and then 3 week a bit higher. So we'll just see what happens on that. It could just be like a deviation below the range, so we had a deviation above the range, we've got a deviation below the range, and it could just pick up support for deviation from the deviation level, so here, like on the daily demand in there. So you can look for potential longs more aggressively than I have here, if it does hold this level. And then finally ZRX. So this is another privacy coin, I believe. No, I've got the wrong chart. But it's not one it's not as nice looking as Zcash and Zen, I don't think. It is on 2 month demand though, so again, but it's not as nice from the low time frame perspective, and it does potentially have, it's going to make a new 3 month supply. So this is another one of the ones, so it's going to make a 3 month at this level, 34. I'll show you that there, but has already tested and rejected that. You can see here on this candle on this month. So again, it's one of the ones I'm a little uncertain, like do I put in another entry for a possible short on the 3 month level, or is it, the chances are that now, because it's already wicked up to that level and rejected exactly there, is it then going to go higher to another zone up here? So in this case it's also got 3 day supply immediately above, so I'm not confident putting long entries, even though it's on the 2 month demand here. I would rather now get a bit lower in the 2 month demand. It's come off the weekly supply, if not the 3 month level, early, and then potentially look for a drop down a bit lower. Overarchingly, is this like just a giant triangle? I don't know. So the high time frame supply and demand on some of these is more challenging, because again we just trapped. So this is now going to be trapped between a 3 month supply and a 2 month demand, and then potentially this monthly, the new monthly there. So I'm struggling to make any sort of bias, and it's just trading the zones as and when they hit. So we'll see. So that's it on the Ys and Zs. Not that many of them, thankfully. And now, I need to go back through every single chart on my list to see if anything's made new 3 month supply. At least for the last couple of months, I have been putting in these zones, even if they aren't confirmed yet, and putting some alerts on them as well. So I don't necessarily have to do it for all of them, but and it doesn't take as long, to be honest, just to run through them really quickly. If I only look at the 3 month and the 1 month, it's a lot quicker. Whereas this process was a lot slower because I had to redo every single chart because I was well behind on them. Deep, I should probably do a quick update on and comment on this. So this came back down into a 3 week and 2 week demand. We had the alert here, and then I think one of my group did post in my channel about potentially taking longs around on the retest here after the initial bounce. And in between it had made a daily supply, and it did, I think, came back through that daily supply, but obviously didn't get much higher, and has now come down deeper into the demand. And I've had an alert go here today, but actually again it hasn't quite hit the level. So I think what I have noticed today is that some of the alerts that have gone haven't quite hit the levels, so should be conscious of that. And while alts are acting relatively independently, sometimes when you see this, it can indicate that we're going to get another albeit even maybe a small wave down, but another wave down. So just be conscious of that. In the case of here, this deep has a new weekly supply now, and a 5 day and a 3 day inside it. So it could come back up here to retest before getting that drop down into the next zone. Sorry, I'm just distracting myself. Could get a retest all the way up here, or could just, there's a 12 hour more closer to price, so it could just drift off that 12 hour into this zone a little bit lower before going back up to test that weekly. But overarchingly with alts, we really just need to see. I'll go back and have a look at the others chart pretty quickly here, just to see the lower time frame. So like I said, we've got that weekly supply there, made just by a hair. It's also got, I haven't put that in, it's got a 4 day and a 3 day inside. And the daily up here. So just with alts for the moment, and keep an eye on this chart. Yes, we might get a little bit of a run here, but be conscious we're in the weekly supply already here. And that, even if we go a little bit higher, or we could go a bit higher to the, there's 3 day and 4 day supply there, and then there's the daily at the top. So again, we're still kind of in this downtrend. We've got a higher low, sure, or possible higher low, but it could just be a bearish retest before making that lower low. So for now, I remain bearish, whilst being conscious again that we are still in high time frame demand, and we are still, you know, there is the prospect that we are going to do some sort of a reversal, you know, that we're in a similar pattern to for example, here, there, where we are now going to start, you know, maybe get a small rejection there and then ultimately run back through the zone. Yeah, so okay, that's it for the day, I think. Let me have a quick look at S&P, see where we're at. Okay, so I haven't really moved much in the last hour since I've been doing this. So we filled the gap on S&P, filled the gap on Dow. We haven't filled the gap on Nasdaq or on J225 or Russell or EU or FTSE. And FTSE, the gap's quite a lot further away. But we are sort of trying to get through supply. We've got, 30 minutes until the 4-hour closes, so they are going to make new 4-hour demands. So you can look and see if those are going to hold a retest. But particularly keep an eye on these and be conscious of when these come to weekly 3-day supply in there and see where Bitcoin's at that time. And you see, yeah, so Bitcoin's still holding in this kind of area. So it could get a little bit more of a push on Bitcoin and then allow Ether to at least fill the gap and then come up and test this weekly level. And then we'll see what happens. Anyway, so I hope that's useful. Finally finished all the alts. And now, like, yeah, so from going forward with the streams, I can focus on the alerts that are coming through more than anything else, and also be more active on trading Bitcoin and Ether. Yeah, so let me know if you have any questions or any requests. And yeah, join my Telegram channel, please. Like and subscribe. And yeah, I'll see you on the next stream, hopefully tomorrow or in the next couple of days. Ciao.